Hello YouTube, this is Rapscallion. There's been a big progress update on the multi-item sorter. You'll see the most recent version here beside me. This was the one that Cub fans started to use on the Hermitcraft server. It's the one designed by myself and MetaMilo and Samus the Sage. I came across a video the other day on Reddit for a hopper speed multi-item sorter, one that was based on our design, but improved upon by Rifter Labs. And it was a 3-wide tileable version of the item sorter, and it ran at hopper speed using the exact same concepts that we've been using for this item sorter. So I was inspired by that video to develop a 2-wide tileable hopper speed multi-item sorter, and I'm happy to say that we've been successful in updating ours so that it works. So this is another collaborative update. Myself, MetaMilo, Data in place of Samos, who hasn't been around lately, and Rifter Labs as well had helped out with some input to the design, and we've come up with something that we think is probably going to be the new gold standard for multi-item sorting. So it's the same concept as before. The footprint is about the same. It's instead of 6 by 7 by 2, we're 7 by 7 by 2. So we're only adding, one row of blocks to the back of the system, and it's like 2 blocks per slice. So it's not even adding that much more. System is a little bit more expensive. We're using a few more observers and we're using a few more comparators. But really, this thing is pretty cool. This should solve a lot of problems that people were having with timing on the system. One of the biggest issues that I ran across when people were asking for help on how to fix the problems that they were having was the clock timing in. You had to make sure that things were running in on an 8 redstone tick clock, and people missed it or didn't set the clock up properly, or it just it also didn't work well if it came in at a different cycle other than 8 redstone ticks. So if something came in at 9, 10, 11, the system would break and it would mess things up. So we saw problems with people feeding from water streams and other things, problems that I experienced as well on one of the servers that I'm on. And this should fix that because we're running at hopper speed. So let's take a look at what this thing looks like. There's actually 2 different versions of this, both working in the exact same way, but slightly different so that they can be tileable. So you've got an A slice or a slice 1 and a B slice, slice 2. They will alternate. So you'll go slice 1, slice 2, slice 1, slice 2, slice 1, slice 2. In the background is just one of the previous versions of this that was 7 by 8 tileable, but you can ignore that one. I just left it there if anyone wanted to see it. But it's the exact same concept. Size-wise, we're, like I said, 1 block deeper than the first really practical multi-item sorter here. And there was a few things that we had to change to get it to work at hopper speed. One of the biggest things being no torches. So the new system runs entirely on comparator cutoffs, and cutting things off at the same time as others become powered. So right now, with the number of items that are in this hopper, you have to use a few more items than in the last version. You want to do 64, 48, 1, and 1, or you can use a full stack here. You want to have in the furnaces at the back, it's going to be a signal strength of 5 all the way across. So you just need 1 unstackable item in that furnace. And then you've got another row of furnaces here where you're going to have just 1 single item in that furnace. So that's just giving out a signal strength 1. So what happens is this hopper gives enough power to not cut this comparator. This comparator right now has enough power to cut this comparator, but it's also powering all the way around to keep power on this block, preventing these items up top from flushing into the hopper. When one more item is added, this comparator will cut this one off. It'll turn off for a brief second. This will depower. This will no longer be cut off and will repower. So you get a 1 tick off pulse, which will allow an item through and then the cutoff below will allow the items to drop in. It took us a while to get this set up to work correctly. We went through a few different iterations before we found something that worked well and that worked consistently. And then the dropper elevator, while it's the same setup essentially, you have to use a few more observers to make sure that it's timed properly to keep a consistent flow through the entire system. So let's take a look here at how this works at hopper speed. We'll take a couple match items. We'll take a couple of unmatched items, and I'm not going to put them directly into this hopper. I'm going to place them into this chest. So we'll go match, no match, match, no match. And you'll see that they're coming through here and into this hopper. Now, make note that this yellow concrete added 2 items to it. And I'm going to talk a bit about that once I get into the scaled up demo that I'm going to give here. Same with this slab, so this goes to 3. But everything's pumping through. You'll see no matches on the slabs because you don't see another item coming down in, and that's it. It's done. We've got our redstone and our torches, and up here we should have our slabs and our yellow concrete. So there's the proof of concept working for that item sorter. Slice number 2, again, same concept. I'm going to use the same items. We're going to put match, no match, match, no match. Make sure also that in your filter chest, so you've got things, in this I haven't renamed them, but call them blockers or something for any of the blank spaces, and the items you want to match for, you have to have 2 items in here. The system works so quickly that if you don't put a secondary item in here, one of the non-matches will fill the slot if an item gets matched. So you have to have 2 into your filter chest. And each of these filter hoppers, let's say, like I said, 64, 48, 1 and 1. So this should probably be done. There's our matches. There's our non-matches. So I said to make note that this hopper had multiple items building up into it. What happens is that if this hopper is full and this one can't push, it's still going to pull an item in. And now we've got 2 items into this hopper, which can affect the timing on the following hopper if this thing fills up entirely. So if you have a high variety of items that are pumping through the system, this hopper could actually fill up completely with different item types, and it'll no longer be able to pull an item down. Once that happens, it pushes an item in more quickly than if it had to pull first, and then it's going to assume everything's a match thereafter. So this was a flaw in the 3-wide design that Rifter Labs had posted that we had to solve for as well. Luckily, the clock that he used to input items into his system was actually part of the solution for this. And we actually had to do another build of a timer, we'll call it a timer, or a defragmenter, I think was the term we were using, to make sure that we could space out the flow of items consistently without having things hold in the preceding hopper. Because it can be an issue here, but it would also be an issue here where items would stack up before going into the next slice. So you do have to have a leading defragmenter to input the items in. You can't unfortunately just put it in here. What that also means is while we call it a hopper speed multi-item sorter, it's really an almost hopper speed multi-item sorter because that defragmenter will add a delay between item types so that it has time to readjust and continue putting items through. So if you put a full stack of items in, there's no delay between them, it's hopper speed, but there'll be a brief pause after it's done that stack before it accepts a new item type and however many items there are that'll match or not match through there. So the only delays is when it switches from one type to another, not if it's handling multiple items of the same type. If that hopefully makes sense to everyone, I'll show you what the defragmenter looks like here. I'm not going to do a tutorial at this time. I think people know that I'm not necessarily keen on doing tutorials, but I will have a world download available that you can take a look at slice 1 and slice 2 and the defragmenter that I'll show you here shortly. But let's hop over and take a look at the scaled up demo to see how this thing all works together. Okay, we're in our item sorting room. You'll notice a few small changes from the last video. I'm not using indicator lights anymore. They tend to cause a bunch of lag with the light updates that are occurring. Also, if we really want to see if the system is active, we could always take a look at these observers up top to see if they're flashing, and we'll know that something is being sorted. But I have the same configuration of chests that I had for the previous versions. So I've got all my wool and carpet, my concrete and powder, our glass and panes, our oak wood items. Again, this still sorts for the 16 stackable items. So we have our oak signs in here. We've got all our cobblestone, nether items. We have all our redstone components. We've got all of our iron type items, any food and fish, and terracotta and glazed terracotta. You'll see that I've got everything named blockers, and in the filters behind the wall, I've got them named as filter as well. This should all be clear, so you'll see nothing in these bottom chests, except for the terracotta. I have it filled to show you how we're handling overflow. We're no longer shooting an item out onto the ground as an entity. What we'll do is we'll collect the items that overflow from each design, and we'll slot them in here. Anything that doesn't get sorted, you'll see I'm using the barrier block and the sign, will just fall into this stack of chests here. So your non-stackables and anything else you're not sorting for will end up here. Anything that has a full chest, the overflow will end up here. And you can decide what you want to do with those items once they get there. I have my shulker box ready to go, same variety of items that we had used previously, and we'll get that into the system here just in a moment. We have our shulker unloader and our direct deposit chest pumping into the dropper elevator, just using the 2 wide clock on this. This is a hopper speed dropper elevator, so it'll pump the items up, and it's going to place them into this item defragmenter first. So this is the thing that has to lead into the system so that it spaces out between item types. And really all it is a standard item filter, 42111, going into a comparator here over a dropper with a single item in it. You have to make sure you have one comparator and one repeater back to lock just underneath that hopper. The hopper with the items is pointing into the next hopper, so our release is just going to move it over once we get it through to release. You have to make sure that your items get deposited into a container, a chest, something that's not a hopper, because you don't want it to be able to push. I guess you could technically put a hopper pointing straight over, but you don't want to have something that's pushing into this hopper for the defragmenter to work. On this slice of the defragmenter, it's just it's the same. This hopper is pointing into there. You're reading a comparator, 1 tick repeater into a comparator over here from a composter just on signal strength 1. And this is the same type of clock that Rifter Labs used in his video. So it's an 8-tick clock going into this. Just remember, this repeater is on 3 ticks, this one's on 4. You want to have swords in here so you get a stronger signal strength, because we have to cross a distance of 2 here. And it's just comparator into this block, comparator into the block on top, and away you go. This is all it takes to add the spacing in between the item types. This comparator here is just to keep the clock off unless something's actually in the system, so it's not running all the time. So we have it auto off, and this is actually a pretty cool little component on its own. We can actually see use cases for this in things like variable item sorting or shulker box splitters, especially if we can find a way to get it to be 2 wide tileable, but we built this specifically for this multi-item sorter. You'll see the 2 different slices alternating, so 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 into your hopper line over, and 1, 2, 1. So it doesn't matter that it's 1 here and 1 there. It's only because we wanted it to be tileable. So if you've got a space in between, you can just go 1 and 1. So your items that don't match are coming through here. This line is for your overflow. So we actually changed the overflow just a little bit. We're just pointing it into a hopper chain, and it's pumping over all the way into this chest. Probably not great for lag, and we could probably put a bunch of like composts or something on top just to make sure that it's not creating any additional lag. But just for purposes of the testing in this world, I don't really care. So here, everything's really good to go here. So let's give this a shot and watch this thing in action. So we should be getting items here now. So you'll see that this will actually build up in this hopper here instead of building up in the hoppers leading into the next one. And the build up here is okay because if it builds up, we've got some extra space behind it to cover that build up. It's very unlikely that you'll go through so many different item types that you'll ever fill up any of these chests preceding. Like even a double chest is probably sufficient as a buffer for those different item types. So here you see that we've buffered in here with sand and redstone. So we've started to overflow the item types in that first hopper already, which could have caused a whole bunch of problems through this entire system because it would just flush items down all the way. Again, you can hear that it's entirely silent. There's nothing making any noise unless I'm opening up a chest, obviously. And hopefully that's not killing everyone's ears like it has been in previous videos. Yeah. The cool thing about this system as well too is that if there is actually a match, it doesn't have to return all the items back into the filter chest. All that's going to happen is it's going to do the first one, pulled out, it's back in. Now it's using the next items feeding in from this hopper to continue that stream of matches. So the system is actually in operation a lot less when there's matches to the items going in than it was in the previous version, because every match had to cycle back in, match again, cycle, match, cycle, match. If there's no match, it will cycle every one through, so it goes on to the next slice, but the matches will drop down. So I think we're already done. That all happened within the period of time of me just kind of showing the system to everyone here. So let's take a look. There's our woolen carpet, our concrete, our glass, our oak, our stone, cobblestone, our nether items, our redstone components, iron, food. Terracotta is full, so we should have some in the overflow, and the unmatched items are going in here. So there's our shulker box, our other unstackable, and anything that we're not sorting for specifically. Here's our terracotta overflow that came because all of those hoppers and chests are full here. So that's it. That is the new gold standard in multi-item sorting. This is a super compact system for the function that it performs. It's really cool that it's silent, and it's so much more enhanced now that it's running at hopper speed. This should save a lot of people a lot of headaches if they want to build something like this in their world. I do want to say that a lot of people have mentioned that servers running things like Paper and Spigot will not be compatible with this system. This thing is very specifically timed. With something that's running Paper and Spigot, I'm told that it actually skips ticks. If you're skipping a tick, that's going to break this system. So I cannot say that this will ever work on any server with any mod configuration. To be sure, I can't account for that. I'm playing in vanilla. This is solely a vanilla build design. If you are trying this on a server and it doesn't work, make sure you've checked your configurations first so that your design is working properly in comparison to how we've built it. And then secondary, if it's still not working and you've got a bunch of mods installed, it's probably the mods that's affecting it. Again, I just showed you that everything works here just fine without issue, and we've tested this thing a lot. So again, big thanks to MetaMilo, Data, Samos, even with the help on the previous design, and to Rifter Labs for coming up with the concept for hopper speed and giving some input into this design as well. So big thanks to all the collaborators. Let's see if we can get Cub fans' attention again, and maybe see if we can get him to do an update to his pyramid. Anyways, thanks again, YouTube. Enjoy the multi-item sorter and have a great day.